The Detroit Lions made a lot of interesting moves to the roster this season, but there's one that is sticking out right now that I'm going to talk about, and it's this guy from the Philadelphia Eagles that for some reason couldn't fly anymore in Philly, but he found his way onto the roster in Detroit, and he's going to shake some things up. He's a perfect plan for Brad Holmes, and I'm going to tell you all about it.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again!
Wow. What a great season so far, man. Brad Holmes made some epic moves. Dan Campbell doing Dan Campbell things in week 1. It is here, just a couple of short days away. I don't know about you, man, but I am so excited that the Detroit Lions actually get to go on the road to take on the Green Bay Packers this year. I think it's a perfect matchup and a perfect nightmare for the Green Bay Packers, but it's also a perfect plan that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have put together this season that I think a lot of you are going to be very surprised. Even probably going to surprise myself, which I don't get surprised a whole lot. I haven't been with what the Lions have been doing. I think that they've been doing an excellent job at putting good team after good team together. And what they stacked this year in that DB room, man, it's gone unnoticed. No one's talking about it a whole lot. So that's what I'm going to do today. We're talking about what happened with Avante Maddox. And the situation in Philly in his last season was kind of a multitude of things that kind of came to a head, and that's the reason why Avante Maddox ended up in Detroit. So he entered the 24 season as a veteran nickel corner. That was supposed to be his job, and he was going to spot safety, at times and be a safety backup. The year started out a bit shaky, and it was by week 4 against Tampa Bay last season that Maddox gave up multiple big plays, including a holding penalty, a missed tackle on Chris Godwin, and it drew some heavy criticism. Despite starting the season at nickel, Maddox was originally expected, like I said, to back up the safety position. But after being cut and then re-signed in the offseason, where did Maddox fit, right? Where did he really fit? They just brought in Cooper DeJean and others. So this is what happened. Cooper DeJean's rise is what happened. He was drafted 40th overall in the 2024 NFL Draft, initially used as a punt returner and a backup nickel, but after that bye week, Cooper DeJean took over the starting role over Avante Maddox and graded out as the Eagles' best defender in week 5 versus the Giants. Maddox was officially demoted, and Cooper DeJean became the long-term solution at nickel for the rest of the season. It was a very smart move for the Eagles. Cooper DeJean lit it up last season. Maddox handled the transition like a consummate pro. He mentored DeJean and others like Quinton Mitchell, but the writing was kind of on the wall for this guy, right? Cooper, his versatility, his instincts, and his rapid development made Maddox expendable, if you will. With Cooper DeJean locking down the slot in Philly, Maddox became a cap casualty as C.J. Gardner-Johnson, took over the safety position. It is what it is. It was a schematic mismatch potential, but Detroit, man, swooped in, helped stabilize that secondary in 2025, and had some playoff-tested depth, right? That's what we were missing, some more playoff-tested depth. If you look at what Brad Holmes has been doing, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, for instance, brought him in 2023. Why? Playoff-tested depth. A guy that's gone to a Super Bowl. It doesn't make any, difference where they come from. I don't care if it's Philly or KC or Tampa. I don't care what team it is. You need those types of depth players on your roster to carry you forward, to keep everybody else in line. And you brought DJ Reed in from the Jets. Not a whole lot of playoff depth there. And you've got a young rookie in Terrion Arnold. You have a Meek Robertson. Not a whole lot of playoff depth there. You need some vets with some veteran experience in the playoffs. So that's Avante Maddox in Detroit's system. He's an underrated, this is an underrated power play, to be honest. I mean, Brad's done it just about every year, but it's underrated. He did it with Emmanuel Mosley too, but that one just didn't work out. So when the Lions signed Avante Maddox ahead of the 2025 season, it didn't make national headlines, of course. I mean, this is an older veteran. He's not a splash signing. It kind of flew under the radar. But for those who really understand Brad Holmes and the Lions' defensive strategy, which is versatility, this move could be one of the smartest pickups of the offseason. And I truly mean that. Detroit saw some big value in Maddox. And when you take a look at him behind the scenes, you'll see the same thing. Experience, 7 seasons. Perfect, right? Super Bowl pedigree back in 2022 with Philly. So he's been in multiple playoff games. Versatility at nickel, safety, and even, get this, dime linebacker. Dime linebacker from a safety. Leadership, mentoring young DBs, that's part of his repertoire as well. So Maddox brings those 7 years of NFL experience, all with the Eagles, and a reputation for being one of the most versatile, one of the league's most versatile defensive backs. He's played outside corner. He's played nickel. He's played safety. He's even played, like I said, the hybrid dime linebacker position in certain packages. This gives Kelvin Shepherd the flexibility, and Deshaun Townsend, the flexibility to disguise coverage, rotate personnel, right? And you're able to adapt to injury. Hopefully that doesn't happen, right? But if you have to adapt to injury, you can without compromising the integrity of the defensive backfield. Look, playoff experience and leadership, bar none, he has it. It's some of the, the things that Brad and Dan covet the most is leadership. Just look at all the players that they bring in through the draft. These are former leaders, former captains. Avante Maddox and his leadership is part of that. Super Bowl champion in Super Bowl 60, so he's got recent Super Bowl run experience. 7 playoff games, including a Super Bowl start, but 2 Super Bowl runs in just 3 seasons for Avante Maddox. He's known to be a film study worm, like what they call it, a bookworm. Yeah, he's like a film worm, if you will. And he's also known to be a great guy in the locker room. Now, Detroit's young secondary featuring Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, and now Maddox, along with Terry and Arnold, Meek Robertson, and DJ Reed, needed that veteran voice, right, with that deep postseason experience to help these guys understand what's next. As far as a scheme fit, look, this guy thrives in zone or zone match concepts and press coverage. So you're getting a little bit of both. When the Lions have to dip back, and get into a zone look, he can help you. If you need to get up there and get into press man, which the Lions run the majority of, he can do that too. They're both staples of what the Detroit Lions have been evolving to as a defensive identity and have been running now for the last 4 seasons. His ability to blitz from the slot, though, that's what makes this guy so special. And his ability also to cover the bigger tight ends makes him a chess piece in Dan Campbell's aggressive packages. It's exactly what I was talking about this morning on the morning show. When I say that, the linebackers are expected to get a lot more time and opportunity inside this defense to get after the quarterback, well, that means the guys behind and adjacent to are going to have to do their jobs a little bit more, so than they did in seasons past. But now you can rotate this guy down. Put him in as a dime linebacker and see ya, he's going after the quarterback. Those are the kinds of things and mismatches that Maddox brings to the table. When you look at his career, quick snapshot here. I'll give you his stat lines from 2018 to 2024. 81 games played, over half of them starts, 41, 270 tackles, 200 solo tackles, 3 sacks, 36 PBUs or passes defensed, 4 interceptions, 8 forced fumbles. What is the one thing that Kelvin Shepherd and Dan Campbell kept repeating all summer long? Balls on the ground. We want the balls on the ground. We want you knocking out the ball any opportunity that you get. Watching them from practice, that's what they did. Watching them in the game, that's what they tried to do. Now we'll see if that happens inside the season. But he obviously creates some forced fumbles and has a knack of getting to the football. He recovered 1. He had some breakout moments in his game, and I had to highlight this one. Why? Because it involves Jared Goff. So in 2018, versus the Rams, Maddox intercepted Jared Goff and broke up multiple passes in a 30-23 win, showcasing his instincts and ball skills as a rookie. And then we fast forward to 2022, the playoffs. He recorded 7 tackles in Super Bowl, was that 58 or 57 against the Chiefs, proving that he can perform, when the lights are the brightest, right? And then, of course, last season, Avante Maddox delivered a clutch performance last season in Super Bowl 59. He helped the Philadelphia Eagles secure a dominant 40-22 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs by making some key contributions. Maddox made a critical defensive stop on 4th down in the second half. It halted the Chiefs' drive. It swung the momentum, obviously, back to the Eagles. And during that Super Bowl run, he played primarily in the nickel corner role. He was also tasked with covering the slot receivers and helping to contain Travis Kelce for the majority of that game in short yardage situations. Does anybody remember how well Travis Kelce played last year in the Super Bowl? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? He didn't play well. You can blame that on Maddox, right? While not flashy, right? He's not flashy on the stat sheet. He's not flashy on the field. He's not flashy on the sidelines. The guy just wants to play football. He's disciplined. He's praised by many analysts for his tackling ability, and he's very stout in the run game. He thrived in the Vic Fangio style of a zone match scheme that also neutralized Mahomes for much of that game back then too. So to kind of give you a little bit more context about Avante Maddox, this was Maddox's second Super Bowl appearance last year, and his experience showed that he didn't allow any explosive plays in coverage, and he helped maintain defensive integrity during the rotations. So he's a guy that is flexible. You can put him anywhere, and even when you put him anywhere, he performs at a high level. His performance, while overshadowed by the breakout star, of course, which is Cooper DeJean. I'm actually kind of excited to see how he looks this season. And Josh Sweat, and of course that front, that front four, huge key, for that Eagles victory. But let's not forget about what Maddox brought, to the table during that game, which was a lot. He might have only been 14 snaps or something like that in the Super Bowl, but when he was in, he did his job. Injury history, look, we know that he's battled some injuries, including a torn pec in 2023. He had a toe injury in 2022. He did return just fine in 2024, played all 17 games, 20 tackles, 5 pass breakups. And obviously, Detroit Lions medical staff and trainers are going to monitor his workload and make sure that his recovery trajectory is promising throughout the season, depending on how many snaps he's going to get. Look, Maddox is not expected to play a ton of snaps, to be honest with you. Rotational role, a lot of special teams, and that's where he's going to excel. Why is this a perfect plan for Brad Holmes and this team and Dan Campbell? Well, when you see him in this rotational role, I don't see that we're going to have any drop-off in play. Just like you didn't see it with Philly, you're not going to see it with Detroit. And he's now playing with some of the best of the best of the best at their position in Detroit. This is a loaded defense. And when you load it down to the tune that it is now, this is going to elevate Avante Maddox's play. Even at his older age, expect Maddox to be in a rotational role early, earning some reps, getting some snaps wherever needed, safety, nickel, potentially in that dime corner or dime linebacker look, covering slot receivers, blitzing off the edge and third down packages, mentoring the young DBs. That's Avante Maddox. And look, if he stays healthy, Avante Maddox could be the glue that holds that DB room together here in 2025. Playoff push to the Super Bowl.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down